Today, we're going to dive into something really wild from our source material. It's this incredibly ambitious project to build a single mathematical formula, one that connects some of history's most famous numbers. But then it takes a turn you would absolutely never expect, heading straight into the world of scripture. Okay, let's get into it. And this is really the central question that's driving this entire thing. It's a huge claim, right? Trying to build a bridge between the world of pure math and a spiritual text. So how on earth does a journey like this even begin? Well, it all starts with a hunt for mathematical beauty. So the author's whole quest kicks off with a simple yet pretty powerful idea. Can we find one single rule, one formula that links together some of the most celebrated numbers in the history of math? To do that, they first had to pick the key players, starting with a concept that goes all the way back to the ancient Greeks. First up on our list are the perfect numbers. Now, these are really cool. They're numbers where all of their divisors, the numbers that divide into them evenly, but not counting the number itself, add up perfectly to that number. It's a concept that has just fascinated mathematicians for thousands of years because it's so elegant and they're so rare. So, the very first perfect number is 6. Its divisors, 1, 2, and 3, add up to 6. Simple enough. The next one is 28. But from there, they grow incredibly fast. You jump to 496, and then all the way up to 8128. These four numbers right here, they become the absolute bedrock of the formula. All right, the next ingredient comes to us from geometry, the Pythagorean triple. We all remember this one from school, right? A squared plus b squared equals c squared, the fundamental rule for right-angled triangles. But the author doesn't just grab any old triples. They're very specific. They build these two classics right into the formula's DNA, the good old 3, 4, 5 and the slightly fancier 5, 12, 13. Now keep these in mind, especially that number 13, because it's going to become really important in a bit. And for the final piece of our mathematical puzzle, we get this number, 1729. Now, it might look pretty ordinary at first glance, but it has this incredible story behind it, made famous by the legendary mathematician Srinivasa Ramanujan. And this is what makes 1729 so unique. It's the smallest number you can get by summing two cubes in two different ways. It's 1 cubed plus 12 cubed, but it's also 9 cubed plus 10 cubed. This cool dual identity makes it the perfect candidate for a formula that's all about finding hidden connections. So there we have it, our three key elements: perfect numbers, Pythagorean triples, and the hearty Ramanujan number. So the big question is, how do you get these totally different concepts to play together? The author's solution was to just build a custom function from scratch. They call it f of n, and it's specifically designed so that certain inputs give you these very specific, famous numbers as the output. This table, right here, this is the heart of the machine. And you gotta notice, this isn't some formula they just discovered in nature. It's engineered. The author literally forces it to work. If you plug in 1, you get 6, our first perfect number. If you plug in 5, you get our celebrity number, 1729. And look at f of 8. It becomes 169, which is 13 squared, pulled right from that Pythagorean triple we just talked about. And wow, this graph just makes it so clear how constructed this function really is. You can see the values are all chugging along, pretty small, and then bam, at n equals 5, the value just skyrockets up to 1729 before dropping right back down. That visual spike just screams that these values were handpicked for a reason. Now, to make this more than just a curated list, the author added some rules to extend the function. For most numbers after 10, it's simple. You just add 6 to whatever the last result was. But if your input number happens to be a perfect square, a much more complicated rule kicks in, one that's designed to generate even more perfect numbers down the line. A system was starting to take shape. But right when it seems like this mathematical framework is all set, the author makes a hard pivot. The whole project, which was born from this love of pure numbers, is about to be aimed at a target that nobody would see coming. And this is where the whole thing just takes a wild turn. The author takes this custom-built mathematical machine and points it directly at the text of the Quran, starting a search for what they call numerical patterns and even miracles. I mean, the shift is just massive. The original goal, linking cool, famous numbers, is totally replaced by this new purpose: hunting for divine patterns in scripture. And they do this by analyzing verse numbers, chapter numbers, and word counts, all through the lens of this f of n function. Well, as you can probably guess, a formula built to handle perfect numbers isn't exactly ready to analyze a sacred text right out of the box. To make that leap, the function had to get a whole lot more complex. New, super specific rules had to be added to the mix. And here it is, the final form. This thing has become a beast. The original rules are still in there somewhere, but now they're surrounded by all these special conditions for specific Quranic verses. We're seeing new target numbers, like 7, 17, and 19, which are tied to scriptural ideas like the Quranic Code 19, which is a whole belief system around the number 19's role in the text. So with this new, superpower formula, the author reveals their ultimate goal: to create what they call a universal coordinate system, basically a way to numerically map the entire text of the Quran. The whole idea is to treat the scripture like a multi-dimensional map. Every single verse can be given a specific coordinate. That coordinate is made up of its chapter number, its verse number, the output from that crazy f of n formula, and other related numbers like primes that the author links to it. So to see how this actually works, the source material really zooms in on one key verse, Surah 15, ayat 87. It translates to, "We have given you the 7 oft-repeated verses." And that number, 7, is absolutely crucial. Now, in the author's analysis, this one verse becomes this nexus point, a hub of connections. They claim to find all these patterns that link the verse's coordinates, 1587, its word count, and its explicit mention of 7 right back to the formula's original building blocks, like that 3, 4, 5 Pythagorean triple, where, hey, 3 plus 4 equals 7. And right here, you can see the whole system visualized. This scatter plot is the payoff for all that work. Each little dot represents a Quranic concept or verse, plotted like a star in a galaxy. It's literally turning a sacred text into a data plot. So when you step back, what began as a kind of game in pure mathematics, connecting famous numbers for the fun of it, wraps up as this elaborate system that in the author's eyes is designed to reveal a hidden, divine order that's woven into a sacred text. And that, of course, leaves us with the million-dollar question: what are we looking at here? Is this a hidden blueprint deliberately encoded in a text? Is it just a mind-bogglingly complex series of coincidences? Or is this a powerful example of the human brain's incredible, maybe even unstoppable need to find patterns in everything? That is for you to decide.